Good afternoon and welcome to the 25th annual exhibit of hydrogen and fuel cell technologies. We've been here for quite some time discussing applications. We're really trying to replace the fossil fuels. That's the long-term goal. And people often recognize there's a lot of backup power. There's a lot of diesel going on in the cities, just to make sure that the infrastructure, if it collapses, still has some energy. We need to think about this issue, and we've got a specialist here, Sebastien Faivre, who's CEO of H2Sys, and we're going to be talking about a hydrogen generation set for public events, an alternative to the diesel engine. Welcome, Sebastien.
Welcome, Brian.
So, let's start with H2Sys because it's kind of a new player here. When were you founded? Where are you located? And what exactly do you do?
Yes, H2Sys is a company located in the east part of France. It has been created in 2017. Now we are a team of 12 people, and we are a fuel cell system manufacturer, and we also produce generators, electrical generators, like the one you can see on the picture, that are used for backup applications and also to supply electricity in remote areas.
Now, we'll get to the product, but it's kind of interesting to know the background of you people. You have to have expertise or be just stark raving mad to get involved in the fuel cell industry like this. You actually came from within the industry somewhere with a vested interest in fuel cells. Could you describe your background and how you got involved?
Yeah, so I have a background as an electrical engineer, and I started to work for a large company in a big power plants with fossil fuels, and I started to get interested in the renewable energies. And when I step in these renewable energies, I understood that the problem is the storage of these renewable energies. And I arrived and I stepped in the hydrogen because hydrogen is the best way of storing renewables energies. And I wanted to start to work in this sector. And I get hired by a research center in France as a project manager. And we demonstrated the hydrogen technology by releasing the first fleet for hydrogen vehicles for post-delivery in France. So I saw that the market was starting to have some demand, and I said, why not create my own company with some associates, and let's shut out all the diesel engines from this world, and we will bring the hydrogen fuel cell like the standards for power generation.
This is what you just said there. I asked you during the preparation for your mission here. Some people want to replace all the taxis with hydrogen fuel cell-driven taxis, and in fact, Paris is doing something like that. Your mission is really to replace diesel power generation, auxiliary power, backup power, power that's used for events and so on with hydrogen fuel. Did you study the market before you made this decision? Did you do the numbers and the math and think, wow, there's a lot of sales potential there and a lot of reasons for using hydrogen instead of diesel? Is that how you arrived at the product that we'll soon be discussing?
Yeah, exactly. When we had the idea to create a company, then we were looking for some markets that are not really yet taken by other company, and we saw that there is a lot of backup power supplies. Actually, the market now it's around $27 billion. It's still having an average growth of 7-8% a year, and you have actually at the moment 100 gigawatt installed, but it's mainly diesel. It's 80% of this market is diesel. Wow. So we have to really step out of this because of emissions, and this is where we step in, and we develop this kind of devices running on hydrogen, and now the customers, they want this because there is a massive market, as you understand. What they want extreme reliability. With this kind of fuel cells, you have a very long time of operation possible without almost any maintenance if you compare to diesel engines when you have oil and so on. So it's really easy to use for the customers. And another point is that you can just leave it in your basement and just take it out when you need. It doesn't need to be started every month or every 3 months to make sure that it will run. It's just when you need it, you will have it, and it will save you because you are on a power outage and you need power for different markets. I can give some examples. We have the logistics, we have the healthcare, hospitals, data centers, and so on and so on. You need a backup power supply to be sure that your business is running when you have a power outage.
So the product that you developed, and let's go down and take a look at this baby. The name you chose for this is kind of fascinating, isn't it? It is called the
Boxy.
Boxy.
Yes. So it's a box. So I with hydrogen, but we like to give him a nickname like in the cartoons. So we found it funny to call it Boxy. So it's really we try to work on a very small size so that it's easy to handle and carry in different places. By the way, you can also use this type of devices for events. We could supply our sound system in the middle of nowhere and make a public forest, forum in the middle of a forest. Would be very funny. So basically, you can plug hydrogen bottles according to the autonomy you want, and you also have another storage that is integrated for small dimensions. And it's really easy to use. You just have a key to turn, start and stop. You have some information that can be here on the touch screen, but it's also can be activated remotely, sending data on the cloud. You can just check your hydrogen consumption. And then you will distribute your power here, AC power, for all the devices you need to power. It's available in different voltages and power, of course, and we can customize according to the customer needs. And something quite interesting also, as you can see, we made it very strong for harsh environment.
Okay, so this means it's robust?
Yes, it's really robust.
I'm going to test this. Oh, it looks pretty robust to me, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, it's very strong.
Yeah.
You can use it everywhere.
You could have put a cushion on top for more comfort. Okay, so basically this is important. So what you have here is a device that, as compared with the diesel, you can operate this thing indoors, can't you?
Yes. This is not releasing any smoke, just water. So it's very silent too. You can use it in your basement for construction area where you don't have yet electricity. So you can use it inside, really not making any noise. And as I said, just releasing water. So comfort that you've never seen before.
So you mentioned the massive market. I want to underline one factor of the fuel cell industry. When we look at numbers here, an order of 100 buses is a huge order because really these fuel cells are expensive and the cost of hydrogen is an issue. So if you try to launch a fleet of cars or mass produce the cars without an infrastructure as well, you really have issues here. But remote power is one of these great niche markets where you can enter with a device like this because of the remote operation and the decline of maintenance costs. You're really cost competitive, aren't you, with the available auxiliary power options?
Yes, as we said, you have a very low maintenance on the operational cost. And on the capital cost about these devices, actually, for remote places or other markets and applications, you don't have so much expenditure because, as I said, you can just fill this one with some bottles that you will buy from bigger gas producers. And this is now available on the market at a very competitive price. It's like just plug and play, you get your power.
Yeah. We don't have a demonstration here, but I love the idea that you can just use an app on your phone or your computer at home to see how much you have left in the tanks. You mentioned there are tanks in there already. What I find interesting about backup power, it's always the sort of catastrophe scenario. A lot of this backup power for sensitive IT infrastructure, it only runs for a few seconds to a few minutes. over several months and sometimes a year. So theoretically, this item would be a self-standing item even without the external tanks. And if you want to have that thing running for a week or for an afternoon, you just hook up however many tanks you need, and it extends, because the actual lifespan of a fuel cell, what is it? It's like 10,000 hours? It's
Yeah, depending on environment. But for this one, we are having some already tests on different customers, and we are quite confident running minimum 10,000 hours. And yes, when we designed it, we understood different applications can be fitted with these devices. And there was always this question, how do I get my hydrogen refilling bottles? So we said we will make something that we can scalability options. So you can either use external storage if you need 1 week autonomy, but if you just use it as a backup power for 1 or 2 hours, this one will make the job. You already have hydrogen inside, and they can even work together. So it's really a discussion with the customer needs, and we will propose different solutions of how to supply hydrogen for this device. There can also be a possibility for remote places. We work with other companies here around. We can produce the hydrogen on site with an electrolyzer and directly feed here the unit. So here you are completely autonomous for infinite autonomy as long as you have sun or wind that can supply the electrolyzer.
So this is a really attractive piece of technology. Have you ever been in the movies with it? Is there a market?
Yeah, it's very funny because as it's silent, we had some requests for companies that are shooting movies, and they had to turn a scene in Lyon City in the middle of the night. So if you do this with diesel engine, you will produce like the first bad advice on the movie, because you will wake up the whole neighborhood running your diesel engine in the middle of the night in the neighborhood. So when they understood that this is completely silent, they said, this is what we need. We will shoot our movie in the middle of the urban city, and doesn't disturb anybody around. And even the actors and the actress, they're really interested, saying, we are not harming an environment in our job.
Yeah, it's super important. It's only a reminder, though, an object lesson in how you can operate it 24/7 within a community without disturbing it. This would be the same thing indoor in a building or on roofs, where a lot of backup power exists for internet infrastructure and so on. So this is a very versatile device. We have to, oh, by the way, also, you mentioned events. So I think maybe this is part of, you're younger than me, so being aware of how many events actually require ad hoc power backup. That is, here you have something happening and you need a power supply. It's a temporal thing, but it's an important event. And event management is a subject you can study at school. There's a lot of events going on. The only problem I'd have with that is, do you really have to buy this device in order to shoot that movie in a city or a small town? Because it's kind of an expensive proposition to have to buy a device in order to do something for 2 weeks at one location. Have you a solution for that?
Yeah, of course. As I said, we have some demands for specific events that can last a few days or a week. And for that, we will propose a rental solution with hydrogen also provided for the time of the event, plus this. And of course, we produce these ones, and we have like 10, 20 generators that can be requested for the time of your event, and you will just pay a fee per day for renting these devices.
It's almost criminal to go through the options of marketing a device like this. We all know that with every catastrophe, there's an instantaneous demand for power on site. But let's go through some of the examples just to get the idea of the volume involved and the necessity versus this technology. Worst case scenarios are?
Worst case scenarios, yeah, we always think about climate change and events that can happen where you really need first to communicate, to plug in some phone towers, to get back in touch with some people that can help you. So of course, in this century, some of these climate events will happen, and we can have this ready for helping you in kind of such event. We have now some people working for healthcare or even firemen in case of flooding. They need to supply some pumps. They want to give the good example to the population. They say, look, we already step in CO2-free technology to help you, because this is important that us too, we get rid of fossil fuels.
So we've heard about the large market. We've heard about the mission to replace diesel auxiliary power, backup power units across the globe. If you look into your crystal ball and try to predict the volumes that you are going to get in the future, do you have any idea of how quickly you'll have to scale up your production to match the demand? Do you have a business plan for that with the curve in this direction?
Yeah, exponential curves, of course. We always draw this curve in our business plans. First, to convince investors. But it's really happening now, I have to say, because we saw the changes since we were here last year, and we really saw that there is a tremendous changes on the market. Now we really have a lot of demand coming through our emails, website, and so on and so on. And of course, I want to increase my volumes, because getting an industrial production, I will lower the cost, and I will enter other markets in that way. But now we are in the stream. There's really a stream, and of course, it's step by step. As we said, the streams will make big rivers.
Exactly. Sebastien, it's been thrilling to talk to you. I find it very important because we know where does the growth come for the fuel cell industry. It's the niche markets that get things started. The forklift truck was a big success story. And the volumes that you described when replacing diesel auxiliary power are enormous as well. This could be the second lift that we need in the industry to create also affordable cars, affordable fuel cell applications across the board. So I'm very grateful for your presentation here and also for your product, because it is the key to the future. And I hope we see you back here next year with another story about movies made possible by your generation system. Thanks
a lot. Thanks a lot, Brian. Thanks a lot.
Okay, and thank you.
Thanks, everybody.